Long before charts, tables, and complex economic models came into view, one person noticed a simple but uncomfortable truth. Wealth does not always rise. Power is not permanent. And prosperity, when left unchecked, often prepares its own destruction. This idea was not born in a university lecture hall. It emerged from real life itself, inside states, within palace corridors, by observing decisions made on the path to collapse. It was written by someone who witnessed how empires rise, how they reach their peak, and how concentrating power eventually leads them into slow decay. Welcome to the long history of finance and money, the place where wealth, power, and human behavior intersect. In the 14th century, while Europe was shaken by plagues and wars, a thinker living in North Africa described an economic cycle that remains strikingly relevant even today. His name was Ibn Khaldun. Centuries before the founders of modern economics, he sought to understand why economies grow, why states become rigid, and why they ultimately collapse. Ibn Khaldun did not live in a stable world. Quite the opposite. States were rising quickly and falling just as fast. Cities grew wealthy, then were suddenly abandoned. The Black Death devastated populations. Power and money constantly changed hands. This was a difficult environment for abstract theory, but a perfect one for observation. Ibn Khaldun was not a detached academic. He served in royal courts and advised rulers. He saw firsthand how states made poor decisions, how excessive taxes were imposed on the population, and how these choices led to collapse. Over time, he noticed something clear. History kept telling the same story. Names changed, maps changed, but the pattern remained the same. First came discipline, then prosperity followed. Prosperity turned into comfort, comfort into decay, and decay into collapse. This sequence almost never changed. One of Ibn Khaldun's most powerful insights was viewing the economy not as a machine, but as a living organism. Economic systems, he argued, survive on trust, cooperation, and shared purpose. When these bonds weaken, accumulated wealth or power alone cannot hold the system together. Instability becomes inevitable. At the center of this idea lies the concept of asabiyyah. It can be translated simply as social cohesion, but for Ibn Khaldun it meant far more. Asabiyyah is trust between people, the ability to sacrifice for common goals, and the capacity to think long-term. Societies with strong asabiyyah remain productive, even with limited resources. People work, invest, and protect their institutions. Wealth emerges naturally, because the system supports production, but success changes behavior. As wealth grows, leaders drift away from productive minds. Bureaucracy expands. Positions are assigned through privilege rather than merit. The discipline that once built the system slowly weakens. When survival is no longer a concern, risk-taking declines and innovation slows. The state stops producing and begins consuming its past successes. Criticism is answered not with solutions, but with memories of former glory. Ibn Khaldun explains this process most clearly through taxation. In a state's early years, taxes are low. People work hard because they know they will benefit from their efforts. The economy grows and so do state revenues. Over time, the state expands. Spending increases. Taxes rise. At first, revenue continues to grow. But eventually, high taxes begin to suffocate production. People work less. Trade contracts. The tax base shrinks. The state's response is almost always the same. Raise taxes even further. This does not solve the problem. It accelerates collapse. Ibn Khaldun's message is clear. States do not collapse because they tax too little, but because they suppress production. This is not a moral judgment. It does not claim low taxes are good or high taxes are bad. It simply states one thing: incentives shape behavior. When people believe their effort will not be rewarded, they withdraw from the system. They feel they are rowing in vain. The same logic applies to public spending and corruption. As states age, luxury becomes normalized. Bureaucracy swells. Resources are redirected from productive activity toward preserving the status quo. This process rarely begins with bad intentions, but the outcome never changes. Spending grows faster than production. Trust erodes. The state spends more, yet gains less in return. And this sounds uncomfortably familiar today. Because Ibn Khaldun was not describing only his own time, he was identifying a recurring pattern in human behavior. In the modern world, the cycle is more complex, but the logic remains the same. Social cohesion today appears as trust in institutions. belief in currencies, and willingness to follow rules. When these are strong, economies grow. When they weaken, everything becomes short-lived. Perhaps Ibn Khaldun's most striking insight is this: collapse usually begins when everyone feels safest. That is why his thinking still matters. It reminds us that systems are temporary, peaks are not permanent, and the decisive factor is never numbers alone, but trust. This perspective matters not only for states, but for individuals as well. Understanding cycles does not stop them, but it allows us to read them more accurately. Real awareness begins not by escaping the cycle, but by no longer being surprised by it. Ibn Khaldun's greatest achievement was not predicting the future, but making it understandable. Because once something is understood, it loses much of its power. History does not repeat because people make mistakes, but because incentives never change. And at the foundation of every system, the same fragile element still remains: trust. When trust stands, prosperity follows. When trust breaks, collapse begins, quietly. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. See you next time.